Good morning to you. It is 6:59 here on the East Coast. I'm Tom Hansen. Anne-Marie Green has the day off. We begin this morning with the latest on the Trump Organization indictment. Yesterday, the company's chief financial officer, Allen Weisselberg, pleaded not guilty. Prosecutors allege he failed to pay taxes on corporate perks. The Trump Organization itself was also charged, and its lawyers entered not guilty pleas. Former President Donald Trump has not been charged in this investigation. Jeff Pegues reports from New York City.
Stunning charges leveled against the former president's company and its longtime CFO, Allen Weisselberg, who surrendered to authorities in New York City. Prosecutors say that for at least 16 years, the Trump Organization paid top executives off the books, calling it a sweeping and audacious illegal payment scheme. Weisselberg himself, they said, avoided paying taxes on $1.7 million, used company money for apartments, private school tuition, and luxury cars. All of it adding up to 15 counts. The Trump Organization called it a political play with a bigger target in mind. Do you think the real target here is former President Trump?
Given the nature and the unprecedented nature of these charges, that certainly that's the reason they were brought, okay? If the name of the company was something else, I don't think these charges would have been brought.
Weisselberg, who pled not guilty, has worked for the family for almost 50 years, but now he's under pressure to flip.
This is a man in his 70s. If he looks at Michael Cohen and look what happened to him in terms of imprisonment, when they put the cuffs on you at the courthouse, you may have quite a change of mindset.
Weisselberg's former daughter-in-law is cooperating with prosecutors and willingly turned over boxes of documents. So there was a lot happening off the books.
80%, yeah.
80%?
Mm-hmm.
And why do you think that was happening off the books?
Because Allen's worth is to save Donald money.
Weisselberg surrendered his passport and he was released on his own recognizance, with the potential of spending decades behind bars hanging over his head. There is still the possibility that the former president could also be charged in this case. The grand jury on the case is going to be active through November. Jeff Pegues, CBS News, New York.
All right, Nicole Skanga has been following this story and is here to discuss and break things down for us. So, Nicole, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. What's the latest in this case, and what happens next?
Yeah, hi, Tom. Good to be with you. You heard it there. The Trump Organization has been charged with 15 felony counts. Now, this indictment was always going to be historic because it's the first time we've really seen any charges filed against the former president's namesake real estate empire. But looking over this 25-page indictment, it is comprehensive and it is hefty. These are charges that when I spoke to defense attorneys earlier in the week, they did not see coming. Prosecutors say that for 15 years, the Trump Organization paid top executives off the book. You heard there Carrie Dunn, who's general counsel for the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, in court yesterday, calling this sweeping and audacious illegal payment scheme during the arraignment. You know, something prosecutors will now argue is this was not just tax avoidance, but rather this was tax evasion. And Allen Weisselberg, the longtime chief financial officer of the Trump Organization, pled not guilty. He had to surrender to the Manhattan DA's office. He was cuffed on the way into the courtroom. Prosecutors have long tried to obtain his cooperation in their ongoing 2 investigations into Trump business dealings. So the million-dollar question now is, will he flip?
Yeah, and certainly, as we heard, the suggestion was that a lot of these charges will amplify the pressure for Weisselberg to flip on Trump, just what you were getting at. Prosecutors from the Manhattan DA's office detailed the alleged crimes yesterday. Can you just break this down for us and explain those charges and the severity of them? What are the stakes here?
Yeah, well, you heard that Weisselberg himself, prosecutors said, avoided paying $1.7 million in income, used company money for things like apartments, luxury cars, and also his own grandchildren's tuition payments. And so what prosecutors here are doing are trying to describe a deliberate effort by Weisselberg, by other senior executives, by the way, co-conspirators co-conspirators that were named in this indictment to underreport their income by accepting secret perks that were not shown in tax documents. 15 counts, 15 years. You can see the magic number here. In a stunning paragraph in this indictment, they also accuse Weisselberg of contributing more than $215,000 to a pension plan by falsely claiming self-employment. Of course, we know he was not self-employed, but you can really break the charges up into 3 serious categories, and that is tax fraud as a scheme, grand larceny, and falsifying business records, Tom.
Those are some significant charges. What are the penalties here if found guilty?
Yeah, these are crimes that, if convicted, with 7 years maximum in prison for a reach of 15 counts, could put someone behind bars for 105 years. Now, we are not, insinuating, we don't anticipate anyone to be in prison for over a century, but this is the kind of indictment that prosecutors think and hope will persuade Allen Weisselberg and perhaps other Trump Organization employees they've been speaking with to cooperate with the ongoing investigation. Of course, as it was laid out there by Jeff Pegues, Weisselberg is valuable because he has been working with the Trump Organization for nearly 50 years. He is not only their gatekeeper, their CFO, but he's also a close confidant of the former president.
Yeah, certainly someone they've been looking to talk to for a long time. So looking forward, Weisselberg is due back in court on September 20th. Do we know what will happen in that proceeding?
Yeah, it's a status conference, and so he'll be there September 20th, bright and early, 9:30 a.m., and it's really just to set up a law in motion calendar for the different legal teams. That's a schedule of sorts that outlines the kinds of legal arguments that the judge will hear from both sides and allocates an appropriate amount of time for each. Also, looking forward, Weisselberg was released without bail after being ordered to surrender his passport and told to clear any sort of foreign travel plans with the judge beforehand. Now, this grand jury, we should point out, will be sitting in New York until November, so we could see more indictments come between now and that September 20th status conference. In fact, we expect that we will see more indictments returned by this grand jury.
Now, Nicole, I want to shift the focus to some of your reporting. You've spoken to Jennifer Weisselberg, Allen's former daughter-in-law. What has her reaction to all of this been like?
Yeah, I actually broke the news of the indictment to Jennifer Weisselberg yesterday on the phone. She told me that she felt vindicated, that for months she felt like no one believed her when she spoke about, what she calls an off-the-book habits by members of her family. Or her former family, rather. And prosecutors, we know, have been questioning Jennifer Weisselberg for months now. They last spoke with her on Friday. She has handed over boxes and boxes of financial documents, those that came to her through her divorce from Barry Weisselberg, Allen Weisselberg's son. And so she's been cooperating for a while now with both the Manhattan DA's office and the New York State Attorney General. But even she said she was shocked just by how serious some of these allegations, some of these charges were.
Now, as you saw in Jeff's reporting, a lawyer for the Trump Organization said yesterday that if the name of the company were something else, he doesn't think these charges would have been brought. Donald Trump himself hasn't been charged with a crime in this probe. Could we see charges against the former president coming in the near future?
Yeah, we could. And you heard from Alan Futerfas there, who argued that this was unprecedented. Defense attorneys have mirrored the former president, who has called this a witch hunt, saying it's a political prosecution. Those are arguments that aren't really going to stand up in court. So we'll see how this goes forward. Mr. Trump has not been charged so far, but this initial indictment could lay the groundwork for future charges. We've also seen, in the indictment itself, mention of other high-profile Trump associates. Now, those co-conspirators could be high-level executives. They could be members of the Trump family. So we could see other Trump Organization employees implicated here. Now, DA Cyrus Vance, we should note, has twice beat Mr. Trump at the U.S. Supreme Court in a battle to obtain his tax records. And when Mr. Vance's office first began investigating then-President Trump's business dealings, it began a probe of sort of these hush money payments that were made during the 2016 presidential campaign to two women who said they had affairs with Mr. Trump. You might recognize the name Stormy Daniels. And so we could see, more allegations, more charges, related to this emerge in the coming days, weeks, months. It remains to be seen.
Lots of wait and see. Nicole Skanga breaking it all down for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And later this morning, we'll be speaking with attorney and host of the Law and Crime Network, Jesse Weber, for more analysis on this story. You can stream that conversation at 7:23 Eastern, right here on CBSN AM.